All right, folks. Welcome to Alabama Region Sports Car Club of America's Rally School. First time we have done anything like this, at least in my memory. My name is Andy Williams. I am the rally master for the Alabama Sports Car Club of America chapter. I'm also going to introduce Jim Ferris to you, who's going to be leading the training tonight. Say hello to everybody, Jim.
Hey, it's good to be with you. I'm part of the rally committee there, and like Andy said, we're really excited about this going down a new road, no pun intended.
Jim and I both are board members of the Alabama SCCA group. Our club has about 250 members currently. A lot of things go on at SCCA. If you're a car person, SCCA is a great organization to be involved in. We'll talk a little more about that as the meeting goes on tonight. But the club wanted to bring a new type of event to Alabama car enthusiasts in 2023. So we started this process back at the beginning of this year, and it's taken quite a bit of planning and a lot of work's gone in. Some of you may have already participated in our first event back in April, a Trek event, which was more of a social, nice Sunday, Saturday afternoon drive. And we'll hopefully do more of those. We'd like to hear from you folks as we begin to conduct more types of road rally events. What sounds good to you, what you enjoy, and so forth. But tonight is really focused on one type of road rally. And we're going to talk about a number of those, and Jim will give you some of that explanation in a few minutes. SCCA is probably the oldest road rally organizer in the U.S. SCCA has great rules and guidelines, very organized, has a great national committee. Jim and I sit in on their meetings each month, and we share a lot of good ideas and a lot of camaraderie, and also a lot of shared activity across portions of the U.S. You know, there's rallies all around the Southeast, and folks come. I suspect we'll have some folks at our upcoming TSD rally from out of state participating in that, because it's a pretty popular event in many parts of the country. Jim and I have participated in a number of rallies, worked in a number of road rallies around the country and around the world. Some of that has been with SCCA, some with Porsche Club of America, and some other car clubs. We've got some great information we're going to be sharing with you tonight that's been prepared by Mercedes clubs in the U.S. and other clubs that do road rallying regularly. So we're excited to share these activities with our SCCA community in Alabama. Road rally is pretty different from other types of car events SCCA provides. It's kind of a new type of fun for many people that are already familiar and connected to SCCA. It's still very competitive. It's more social in nature, I would say. It requires some thinking skills, some different kind of thinking skills to be successful in road rallying. And it also requires teamwork. SCCA is often thought of as one driver in one car, and road rallying is very different than that. It's a very different flavor than that. So we're going to describe some of that tonight. So tonight's class is an introduction to SCCA road rally for those new to the sport. We'll learn a little bit about terminology, procedures, and a bit of the tech needed for a modern rally. I think the class is a really important part of getting ready for an upcoming road rally event. And we do have one we'll talk more about as the class goes on tonight in October, only about a month and a half away. And we'll share more of those details with you. Just a few rules and regulations for the class before we get started. We are recording the event, as I mentioned, and it will be uploaded to the Alabama SCCA channel, our YouTube channel, our website as well. So you can look for that if anybody misses a part of it or wants to rewatch a portion of the information. I do ask that everyone mute their Zoom app or their phone to kind of keep interference down during the conversation tonight. Primarily, Jim and I will keep our mics on. Jim will be doing most of the presenting, and I'll be handling the chat questions. And I'll talk more about how to handle questions in just a minute. Feel free to turn on your video if you like for others to see your face. That's fine. But do please use the Zoom chat feature to ask questions during the class. If you have a question about a particular slide, it's best to type in your question in the chat window as we're going through the class, and I'll respond to that. I'll gather those comments and questions, and when it's appropriate, I'll interrupt Jim a minute and we'll give some answers the best we can to your questions. You may not get a chat answer back in the chat box, but we'll try to answer audibly, verbally during the class. And then at the very end of the class, we'll open the mics for a final Q&A with everyone that has verbal questions they want to ask. So if nothing else, I'm going to turn the mic and the camera over to Jim and let him carry on and tell us about road rallying.
Okay, if you haven't already, go ahead and share my screen with the folks there, Andy.
All right. And
And
I think you'll need to share your screen, Jim. Let me make sure I've got it so that you can share. Let me do that for you, and then you'll click share. So give me just a second.
It hard on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now you should be able to click at the bottom and say share screen.
Okay. Let's try this. There we go.
And I see your screen, Jim. I see your PowerPoint up. You can switch it into slideshow if you need to. You may need to choose a different window to slide.
That's what I wanted to do. Okay. So Andy did a good lead in here. We need to acknowledge the folks that helped us do this. Andy and I tried to get our safety stewards license, and Peter Snyder in New Jersey helped us do that. Wendy Harrison helped us. She invited me to a couple of her rally schools. And then we started looking for the nuts and bolts, and the folks in Detroit and Jim Feckety from Atlanta, who used to be in the Detroit region, really put the nuts and bolts out there for us. Jim is a multi-year national rally champion in SCCA. And if you've ever seen the Press On Regardless rally where they run on gravel roads in the snow in the wintertime, he's won that several times too. So, but he explained things that Andy and I could understand. Math at about the doctoral level, I think some of it was, but we finally caught on. And so we need to tell you, we didn't just make all this up. We had lots of help. I'm going to go to slide number 4 because you don't need me to read and tell you what we're going to talk about. You've already probably seen some of that. So what is a rally? There are a lot of definitions. Some of them are really crazy, but it's really a scenic drive with a purpose. It's hopefully you and a friend go and you're still friends when you get back. My wife and I still talk to each other after we do these. As a matter of fact, it always brings up some interesting points that we can discuss. So it's just a great time to be out in your car, as long as the weather is pretty decent, and have some fun, learn some new skills, and meet some new friends. So rallies come in different forms. The trek, Andy already talked to you about that. It's a lead follow thing that we did over in Blount County, mostly in April, with what was it, 20 cars and 4 leaders, I think it was. Game Tour Adventure GTA. This is what I've got the most experience with the Porsche Club in Germany when I lived there. Just kind of fun things to do, scavenger hunts, photo rallies, a good reason to meet with 60 of your closest friends at a guest house for dinner and have a really good time. Time, speed, distance, exactly what it says. You take those 3 factors and work with them. Andy's the one that's got the most experience doing this. I've had mixed experience doing these, but I always learn something from everyone I do. So that's what we're going to be talking about today: time, speed, distance. The good one, if you have two of them, you can compute the third. Okay. You can actually use fourth grade math to do this. I proved that not too long ago, though. I had some alternative math problems for the school, and they were so hard to do sitting at my table. It took me like 15 minutes to work out one of these, and the car wasn't even moving. And I thought, we won't do that this time. We'll save that for later. So we're going to do tour rallies. Tour rallies are designed so that you don't get lost with no tricks. So it's just about follow the route and stay on time. And when we get better at it and you get better at it, we'll do some course rallies. These are the ones where you read something and you say, what was that I've just read? What's it telling me to do? All the time you're driving down the road looking for whatever it was that it was talking about. They're a lot more difficult. It's very easy to get off course. They're designed with, it says traps. That's what they call them. I would call them tricks. I think they're very tricky in how they put these together. Here, there's two challenges: follow the course and stay on time. So how to have fun. This first one, there at the end, I say, don't laugh. You'll see what we mean. Have a serious discussion with the other person in the car about, so how are we going to do this? Because no one is more important than the other one. And you've got to understand, you've got to be on the same sheet of music if you're going to be successful at this. My wife and I usually rally together, and she usually is the navigator, and I'm usually the driver. And I'll tell you here in a little while, I'll share an experience with you. She's way better navigator than I am.
And that really is an important thing that Jim is talking about there. So some teams, obviously you do have to have a driver and a navigator in any of the rallies we're talking about tonight. And it's not always obvious who's the better navigator and who's the better driver, because both have very different skill sets required. And so that's an important decision that you will have to make as you think about competing in your first TSD rally. Are you a better navigator at giving instructions, reading instructions, and looking ahead? Or are you better at controlling the car to be precise on speed and making turns and so forth?
So three goals there: stay on the road, stay on course, stay on time. Rally 101 says that if you are not on course, you are not on time. Pretty simple there. The car prep, you say, why do we say that? We're going to drive over some roads in Shelby, Chilton, and Bibb County that there's not a gas station at the next corner. So the car needs to be in very good mechanical condition. And when you register, we're going to ask you to confirm that your car is in good mechanical condition. Show up with the car full of gas, tires in good condition, including inflated correctly, including the spare. If you're like me, I hardly ever look at my spare tire. So this is a good time to do that. The windows clean, especially the windows in front of the B post. You got to be able to see what is in front of you. Auxiliary equipment and installed and tested. I don't think many of you are going to be running any big rally computers or anything like that. But if you're going to use a GPS device, practice. I would tell you that if you're really going to rally sometime in September, start thinking about how long you sit at a traffic light. Sit there and start counting and say, I drove up and the light was already red and I sat here for another 20 seconds. If I was on a rally, how would I make up that 20 seconds? Or if you live someplace where there are mile markers besides a road that you travel often, check your odometer against those mile markers and see how far off they are so that you've got an idea. What are we looking at? We'll talk about the odometer check here in a little while, but what are we looking at? Has my car got a real accurate odometer or not? I just put a different set of tires on my car that were slightly different size, and I can tell you it made like a 4 mile an hour difference at 65, and I'm sure it made a difference in the odometer too. So all lights in working order. We're going to ask you to drive with your lights on. I think we already said that. So Personal equipment. This is weird. We need personal equipment. So I have laying out here for you. I have our rally bag that belongs to my wife and I. So there's a red bag. There's a clipboard, one of those that you can open up and put pins inside of it and stuff like that. There's a set of rooted instructions there, some sticky notes, a timer, a kitchen timer. I've used this timer roasting coffee for like 5 years, so I know how this type of timer works. Don't go buy a timer the morning of the rally without playing with it and knowing how it works. Does it time up? Does it time down? How do you set it? How do you reset it in case you need it? I've got a stopwatch on there. We hardly ever use that stopwatch anymore. Got a calculator. It is as simple as you can get. As you can see, that sucker is about 25 years old. It'll do all of the functions, and it does have one memory slot, which most rallies limit you to. And then pens and pencils. You can see 3 different highlighters. There's probably a green one in there someplace, and a bunch of pens and pencils. Do you like to write with the pen, or do you like to write with the pencil? Think about that. Sounds weird, but think about it. And a holder for your phone. That's not the best one I've ever seen, but it works pretty good. I think that covered everything. Let's see, a smartphone running direct to competitor app. We're going to talk about that later. And finally, an empty bladder. I almost put that over there with a full tank of gas and an empty bladder. So come prepared. Maybe the first time you'll bring more than you need. You almost can't bring too much paper. If you really run into something that's weird and you've got to do some computations and stuff, you're not going to want to do it on your rally instructions. You're going to want to do it on a separate sheet of paper so that it's not confusing. I can tell you about that too. So that's pretty much the equipment, the classes. This is the national slide, except seat of the pants is not on the national list. So national has an equipped class. This is the old style computers. This is the mechanical computer that is in your car that is hooked to the rear axle or someplace where it can measure. These are the guys that want to know when you did your odometer check, what was the temperature outside? What was the diameter of your tires? How long did you warm your tires up before you did the odometer check? I mean, it just goes on and on. These are the old guys. I don't think we're going to see any of these folks at most of our rallies. GPS. GPS is a new class this year, an odometer connected to any electronic calculator. It sounds to me like GPS and equipped are exactly the same class. One is mechanical and one is digital. And I'm thinking that the GPS class is going to roll into that probably in the future. Limited information from any odometer, but you got to manually enter it for calculation. And here's a biggie: no display of deviation from real time or distance. You can buy apps for your phone that will measure your average speed, and halfway through a leg, if it said change the average speed to such and such, you could punch that in and it would automatically keep up with that. So those aren't allowed in the limited class. So stock odometer, all calculations must be entered manually. This is a really good place to start, because if you can do this, if you can do the odometer check and start by doing this, then it's just going to get easier and easier. Novice, the driver and navigator combined, I have less than 6 rallies, and generally this is limited to stock or the seat of the pants. Seat of the pants, stock odometer, no calculations. Some regions, if they run this, say that they want you to cover over your odometer. So now you're talking, this is real seat of the pants, just looking out the window. It would not be easy, I can tell you that. But one of Wendy Harrison's recommendations is if you're driving along and you just get overwhelmed by a problem that you have, but you're still on course, just revert to seat of the pants. Don't worry about how far ahead or behind you are. Just figure out what's going on. Just take it easy. And then when you get to feeling better about it, then go back to doing your calculations and stuff. For our rally that we have coming up, because it is a regional rally and not a divisional or national rally, we are going to have a first timer class, a novice class, an expert class, and we're going to have an observer class. To run rallies, you can have 2 adults and you can have children in the back seat or that are less than 18 years old. But we thought, what if somebody wants to bring like 4 adults and just see what's going on? And Andy and I both know the Porsche Club of America's parade, their annual event, is in Birmingham in 2024. And so we've already got one person that couldn't be with us tonight, and she's coming to the rally just because she wants to prepare for that. So we decided to do an observer class. They will not be running for trophies, and that'll be in the Motorsports Reg when you see that when we get it open next week. You'll have to pick a class, but we'll tell you what the classes consist of.
And keep in mind that everything Jim's talking about here, all the classes and all those things, if any of this is completely new to you, don't sweat it right now. There'll be plenty of time to ask questions later on, and you can also read on more detail. Plenty of places online to explain how the different classes vary and how you do these calculations that he's talking about that different classes can do in the equipment and so forth. But we're kind of going on the assumption that most folks may be new to time, speed, distance rallies. And so that's what we're continuing to narrow down on tonight.
Okay. Team communication, we talked a little bit about it. I'm not going to read these to you. I'm going to tell you that you need to comprehend before you take off what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I'm going to give you an example, but this may be, it may sound extreme. My wife and I don't exactly do this, but by trade, I was a military pilot and I flew a crew airplane. So when we did checklist items, the co-pilot would read the checklist item if he wasn't flying the airplane, and the other person would respond. So we operate kind of like that. It's like she'll read a route instruction, she'll read the whole thing, and then basically I'll paraphrase it back to her. But then as we drive along, we still talk about it. We talk about, because I have a very short memory, mostly. We talk about, okay, what does this mean? What are we looking for? What do you think here? Because when it comes time to make a decision, it's really important that both of you are part of that decision, and therefore you hopefully make the correct decision. So you are a team. The third point there, if the route instruction is a very short distance from the next route instruction or from the one you're on, then that's very important. If you've got something that's only 2 to 3/10 of a mile down the road and you're driving at 38 miles an hour, then that's going to come up pretty quick. That's important. Driver tips. I'm going to read the first one. Drive the car, be aware of all traffic laws. And I can't see what it says behind that. All right, I'm going to tell you a story. When we started the trek, it was from the Barber Museum, from the lower exit from in front of the museum, just down from the little circle where the motorcycles parked. So for the trek, we had a leader and 4 or 5 cars behind them, and they rolled down there, and I was the starter. And we told them in the pre-brief, you got to watch what you're doing. There are other cars on the road. Obey the laws. So there's a stop sign down there, and I send the first group out. And nobody, they went from a dead stop. Nobody stopped at the stop sign or looked in either direction to see if there was a car coming. Now that's at Barber. It was on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock or something like that. There was no traffic whatsoever. So it's not too bad, but you just can't depend on that. The big thing is the driver has to drive the car. For the Bulldog Bend rally we're going to do, the first drive out of the parking lot is a left turn on Highway 119 where the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. Okay, so drive the car, be aware, and obey all traffic laws. So,
and just following up on something Jim has said there, we're assuming that everybody understands that, we've had a few folks come to us at other events and say, hi, I'm interested in this rally business, but I don't know about driving my car at crazy speeds on public highways. Is that really safe to do? And of course, his note there says obey traffic laws. A TSD road rally is always driven at or below the posted speed limits. So you're never going to have to speed to remain safe and remain on time and to be competitive. This is not a speed event at all. I think Jim's probably going to say that a little later on, but just in case that's new to you, just be aware of that.
Okay. For me, number 2 there is the most important, I think, for the driver. Situational awareness. We teach this. I know Rod teaches it at his team driver clinic. When we have a novice group for the autocrosses, we teach it. You can see almost 180 degrees in front of you, like all the way back to the A post on both sides of the car. So that's where you ought to be looking. Everything you're looking for is outside. For this particular road rally that's coming up, we mentioned the fact that all of the signs that you are looking for, signs, not just objects, are on the right-hand side of the car, unless there's an abbreviation that says SOL, which means not what you think it means, but sign on the left. So situational awareness, to me, that's the big thing for the driver. The navigator's got to look ahead in the numbered route instructions, very clear, unambiguous instructions. For me, the navigator, number 3, keep good records, distances, and times. You never know when you're going to need to know what your official mileage was, your mileage on your car, and the time that you hit that last route instruction. And I'll give you an example here in just a little while of that. So, good records, distances, and times. Don't try to do the driver's job. They're looking outside. They're also looking for the same thing you're looking for. Okay, registration. So we're going to use Motorsports Reg, which I think most of you have probably used. The account is free. Go ahead and sign up for that. When we do an event like, well, tonight it was completely free. Normally, if you, let's say you register for the rally, there's going to be a $2 fee added to any registration. They did this instead of going up on the price either to us or to you for other things. So, so the registration for the upcoming rally, the registration per car is going to be $50 if you are an SCCA member. If you're not an SCCA member, one person in the car must be, they're going to have to be a weekend member if they don't have a regular member. So the weekend membership is $15. If it's 2 people that aren't SCCA, one's going to have a weekend membership, one's going to have a trial membership. That's free. The trial membership is more of a record-keeping thing than anything else. The nice thing about you coming tonight to this class is that we now have you in a database under rallies. So when we're going to do something that's rally-oriented, then we're going to contact you. You can always opt out of those, but we're going to contact you and say, hey, come out and let's do this again. When you register, there'll be some things to pick from. You'll need to put in at least who the driver is. I think it'd be good if the person that registers, if it's their car, especially if they're an SCCA member, that they register, they pay, they list the navigator and the driver, and a phone number. If there's, I think it's going to pick up your phone number from the registration. We'll talk about that later about what phone number to use in the car. So let's see, where are we? Minor waivers. This is a big deal. I wished it wasn't, but it is, and it is for many reasons. If you're under 19 years old in Alabama, you've got to have a minor waiver, even if you don't live in Alabama, because our event is in Alabama. Those waivers are not really easy to get, but they are available, and we're going to look at that on the next slide. I suggest you don't use the Richter app phone as your primary phone number in the car. I haven't finished the Motorsports Reg stuff up. I think I'll try to add a phone number in the car that may not be your registered phone number, but if we had to call you or text you, it would be the number that we would use for that, because when you're using the Richter app as a competitor, you don't want to use that phone for anything else because you don't want it to mess up. Okay, I am not going to go through this. I'm just going to tell you that actually 1A is probably the most important, because if somebody uses this, they're probably going to be a non-member. So you can get a guest account where you have a unique number, and then you can go through the process. You go to the online store, you've got to have pictures of the parent and the minor, got to have the minor's information, and you just work through it. And finally, after a couple of days, they'll come back to you and say, here is your minor waiver. It's good for a year for any SCCA event in the United States. The biggie at the bottom, and this is one of the primary reasons that we have to do this, is if there's a custody issue with the minor, then both parents, if there's not sole custody, if there's joint custody, both parents have to participate in this exercise. If there's sole custody, the sole custodian has to say that they are indeed that. If there's a problem with this, if you'll reach out to Andy or I, we can help you a little bit. Try to make it a little less painful. Okay. Hey, finally, to the meat of the stuff, the general instructions. What are they? They're exactly what it says. It's the general instructions. It's like, here we are. We're going to have I worked on those today. We're going to have a road rally. It's going to start at this time, at this place. And here's what we want you to do before you get there. There's always some information about using the GPS-based app. It's the RICTA app is what we're using, okay? But it's also, I think right now it's 5 pages. I've seen shorter, I've seen longer. The one that we used as an example for tonight, I think, is 2 pages. And it's just the typical stuff: route instructions, checkpoints, restarts, time allowances, all of the stuff that you need to know really to run the road rally. Okay. Have a copy of the general instructions in your car. Like I said, there was one attached to your invitation to come tonight. Download the RICTA app. It needs a unique password and car number, and that'll be given at event check-in. So you go to open up and start the app on site. The general instructions usually go out 2 weeks in advance. We'll be able to make that for this event. It looks strange. You're going to tell me.
Let me say something about the RICTA apps while you're on that bullet, Jim.
I'm going to.
Okay.
You're going to ask, why do you tell me to download this thing at my house? And then I look at it, but you don't give me enough information to go ahead and sign in and use it.
Well, what I was going to really say was, if you're new to the RICTA app and these kind of things, when you Google that, when you look that up in the Google Play Store or the iOS store, there's 5 or 6 apps that say RICTA. And Jim's slide is important here because it says the competitor app. That's the only one you need, and it's free. All the other ones are for the organizers of the event for the most part.
Yeah. So if we gave you your car number and you already know whatever your magic password is and your names and stuff, and you crank this thing up at home and you forget to turn it off, and you show up at the site, if you came anywhere from the north to our site, you're going to pass at least one checkpoint. It's already going to log you in. So when we're ready to go and there's 40 cars sitting there and one person has already hit a checkpoint, we've got to go in and manually take you out of the system, and you've got to reboot your app. So that's why we're going to go ahead and just wait until we get there to give you your car number, and you'll come up with your password. We'll give you a password to get into the rally. Then you'll protect your rally account with a password. I'll spit it out here in a second. So that's why we're waiting. So the day of the rally, you're there at, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning at the start point. You need to have read the general instructions again. Make sure that you're familiar with them. It'll start to flow and it'll start to make sense the more and more you look at it. And then after you've done it once, it'll be, oh yeah, I can do that. Be on time is important. We're going to probably have two tables set up. One will be doing waivers and the other one will be doing the RICTA app setup. Okay. So you're going to start up with a full tank of gas and an empty bladder. There are restrooms at the start point. You're going to crank up your competitor app. Please, when you put the driver and navigator names in, use your real names and not something like crazy, so we can figure out who you are possibly. We know your car number, but so then 30 minutes before your start time, you're going to get a copy of the route instructions, and we'll look at those in just a second. Go over them very, very carefully. I would go sit in the car. I'd go sit by myself someplace with my navigator or driver and say, okay, this is what it looks like we're doing, and then decide what is important to you. And I think you're going to start to see some things that are going to pop out and highlight what you think is most important to stay on course and on time. And of course, I almost have to say this, like if you're going to look for signs, then highlight all of the signs in pink, okay? Even if it's something in quotes that's part of a sign, highlight it in pink or whatever color you choose. So be ready to go at your start time. CZT, what in the world is that? So car zero time. I think we're starting, Indy, aren't we starting at 8:30? This may change.
So that's right. Yeah.
So if we start at 8:30, there is no car zero. Car zero will have left probably 45 minutes to an hour before you to go out and look at the route and make sure it's okay. But so that's car zero. That time's already taken. Car one is going to start at 8:31. Car 31 is going to start at 9:01. Okay, so that's car zero time plus your car number. And you'll see that because at the odometer check, we'll either give you 5 minutes to do the odometer check or we'll give you a car zero start time. At the first leg where we stop, we're going to give you a car zero start time. So that's where that'll come in. So it's like once you're ready to go, bingo, let's go have some fun.
And what Jim didn't say there, but it's probably becoming obvious to you, is that every car is going to leave at 1 minute intervals. So we're going to have up to 40 cars at our next event. And so it may be 40 minutes before the last car leaves the start.
But you still don't get your route instructions until 30 minutes before your start time.
Right.
So this is what your RICT app looks like. This was the one for the Mercedes-Benz Club of America, one of their runs. You choose your event, then you enter the event password. We will give you that password, okay? We will provide that for you. Then this may have changed a little bit. The one on the left, I don't think has the car number. We'll give you the car number. You put in your password, just something to protect your account in case you have to reboot your phone or do something else. Enter your class. I told you we've got first timers, novices, and experts and observers. Enter your email. There's a chance that we could email you while you're out there. We would rather try to call you or text you if we had to. And Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think instead of team name now, it says driver navigator, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Okay, I thought it did. Yeah, Linda set ours up the other day and I didn't even look at it. So, okay, so we've got that. We take off at our car zero time and we need to know how our odometer compares to the perfect mileage determined by the Rally Master. And the general instructions will tell you how the Rally Master determined that perfect mileage. It's really, I meant to do an example here. I didn't. So sorry about that. So RM figures the mileage and you drive it. And at the end of the odometer check, which is anywhere from 8 to 15 miles, the first part of the rally, it's not a graded or timed part of the rally. So it's a little less critical. There will be some things to help you. There are a numbered route instructions to help you stay on the route, but otherwise, you just drive the speed limit and enjoy the sights. So when you get there, you take the official mileage, which is going to be given to you. and that's going to be your divider, and you put your distance from your odometer on the top, and you come up with a correction factor. Simple math, come up with a correction factor. It's going to be 1.12 or 0.978 or something like that. And whatever that is, you multiply the mileage on the route instruction by that correction factor. And that's what you should see on your speedometer when you get to that point. Okay.
And of course,
And you can,
everyone's car has can have pretty variable accuracy on their odometer. And like Jim's saying, that's the important part here, is that we have official mileages and official times and distances. And the only way for your car to match up to that and be accurate down to the second is if you know that your odometer is off by this small correction factor.
it sounds weird, but it works. And so you can look at, I'm going to go to the next slide. So here are some route instructions. So let's look on the right-hand side. Let's look at right after Eddyville. So that's going to be at 1.3 miles. That's probably not a great one. Pick the one on the bottom. Change average speed to 38 at speed limit 40 at 5.62 miles. And you do your odometer factor correction to that, and you come up with 5.85 miles. And so as you're driving along, as you approach 5.85 miles, you should be looking for a speed limit 40 sign. And as you roll down through these, you'll start to see that, okay, I'm using my correction factor, but I'm always just about a tenth or something like that short. Then you can start to anticipate that and kind of make some corrections in your head. So here's a very clean route instruction on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side is a copy of the route instructions that my wife and I did for the Chattanooga Motor Car Festival rally 2 years ago. And as you can see, my navigator writes like all over the route instructions. Like I was saying, you need to know when you were at places. You need to know what the mileage was. Let's see, everything's orange and blue on there. So I don't see anything that surprised me. But you can see there's roads, there's signs, but zero out odometer end time portion. The checkpoints are marked. Then there, number 57 is a flying start that ended at 33.45 miles and starts at 0. And we pulled over before the 35 mile per hour sign, zeroed out the odometer, and then began a flying start, which was just drive away. And when you get to that sign, we got a ding that said, you're on course. You just passed the checkpoint, and you're now being timed for the course. So, and that's pretty much how the one that we have written. It's going to work almost exactly like that. We don't have the little symbols for the stop signs and things like that, but that's pretty much how the route instructions work. It tells you what to do. So let's see what we do with those. No questions so far, Andy?
I've just answered a question about the spare tires in the car and such, but everybody seems to be on course right now. Feel free to send any questions you have through the chat box, and Jim and I will stop and answer those for you.
Okay, so yeah, our Mini Cooper does not have a spare tire. It also doesn't have run flat tires. So as you drive by us, throw us a bottle of water or something, I guess. So route following priorities. So we're on the route. So what do? Well, don't do anything unless you're instructed to do it. All right, just keep going on that road. So the second one, that's a little odd, but it does happen. Execute an emergency instruction or follow an emergency sign placed by the rally folks, the rally organizers. This is quite rare. We will send a car out ahead of everybody to see how the course looks. And there might be a possibility that that would have to change the course in some way. Of course, if something's happened and there's law enforcement or first responders out there, then just respond to what they tell you to do. And even without being familiar with the area that we're going to be driving in, there is a possibility that you could get yourself back on course if they told you to turn around and go the other way. Because of the fact that we've got a stop in the middle of this one, and it should be identifiable, and then we've got an endpoint that should be identifiable. So worst case is that you have to use one of those, but then en route there on a road that was not part of the rally, eventually you get back on course, you drive by something and it says ding, you just passed checkpoint 15. So you kind of play that one by ear. So here's the big thing: execute a route following action referenced to an official mileage and a route instruction. Okay, this is a Monte Carlo rally, which means simply, SCCA has way too many names. This means that for every change in direction that you have, there will be an official mileage for that. We're not trying to get you lost. We're trying to keep you on course, and then it's your job to stay on time. The other item that you can use is called the principal road. Okay, so if you've ever driven much in Europe, they have priority roads over there, but they have this little sign that's a gold diamond that says you're on the priority road. Makes it really easy to stay on the priority road. Not so here. So there's some, excuse me, it's a principal road here. And there are some definitions down there. So let's see what that looks like. Before we get there though, two special signs: stop signs and yield signs are always all caps, and we don't change or refer to these in any different way. Okay, so stop signs and yield signs. An opportunity, you could be told left at the second opportunity. Signs. If a sign is referenced in a route instruction in quotes, it may not be complete. We practiced this at the Trek, and we used computer, and there was a sign on the right-hand side of the road that was like 4 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and it listed 5 or 6 businesses, and one of those businesses was a computer repair shop. Okay, and all our route instruction said was computer, and it was in quotes. Doesn't have to be the whole sign, but it won't be misleading. Okay, so helpful hints, those will be in parentheses, and we'll try to make them just that, helpful hints. The school bus stop ahead sign over here reference. Okay, it could be school bus, stop ahead, stop, or stop ahead, but not stop. Okay, a stop sign is a stop sign, nothing else. Sorry. All right, first test. Forgot to tell you about that. So which way does the principal road go and why? I like the white fence, Andy. What do you think about the white fence?
You have to pay attention here. The key for me in an intersection like this is I see the stop sign, the back side of the stop sign over to the left. So I know that is not the continuation of the road I'm currently on.
Very good, very good. Other hints here, the double yellow line, but I can't tell. There may be a double yellow line over there by the stop sign. So double yellow line, stop sign. Andy wins. Road to the right is the principal road. This one's a little harder. Of course, we can't read the sign on the left there, and we can't see very far down the road, but let's see if this helps. Uh-oh. So that's the road from straight ahead, and it's got a stop sign. Okay, so That is not the priority road. So principal road. The principal road may not be the one that goes straight. And if you'll notice here, there's a good chance that that road doesn't have a center line on it. We are going to drive on at least 2 roads that don't have center lines on them. So road to the left. How about non-existent roads? No gravel roads for this this rally. There's a gravel parking lot where we start, and there's a gravel parking lot at the Odo check. But it's a nice parking lot. You're not going to mess up your car. These are non-existent as far as we're concerned. Okay, here's a biggie. Let me get caught up on my slides here. Okay, but what if we are off route? So how do you know you're off route? Well, the navigator says, we just got to the next mileage and we haven't seen what we're supposed to see. And you go, oops. So what do? Stop in a safe place, record your mileage and your time, and turn around to where you last knew that you were on the route. So measure the mileage from the stop to the known point. So that's going to be, I don't like the way this is written exactly. I should have changed it. You double that mileage back to where you knew you were on the route, and subtract it off of your route mileage to recover back onto your route instructions what your mileage should be. Because unfortunately, you don't want to zero your odometer, okay, in the middle of a leg. So you need to come up with a way to do this, and the distance back from where you turned around, double that. And that's got to be the factor that you place on all of those mileages. You're going to have to add that to all of those mileages. So how about the time? You recorded the time, okay? You need to decide how late you are and take a time allowance. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So could this happen to you? Think this could happen, Andy?
It definitely happens. And again,
maybe like
our upcoming rally is not going to be holding lots of tricks, and some of those roads that Jim showed, I hope we're not on any of those roads. There are some roads that may not have a center line on them for a short distance, but none of the roads are going to be so rough that you wouldn't drive your low to the ground sports car.
So I mentioned a second ago that I'd give an example. My wife and I are out test running the second half of the rally last Saturday, and we made a mistake, a kind of a stupid mistake, but it's like we even talked about it. It's like, okay, we're looking for. It's like, well, was that it? And we're testing the mileages too. The mileages weren't set at that point in time, so we drive on, and it's like, okay, here's the next instruction, but it kind of referred to that instruction. So we get up there and go, that was not it. So we stop, and we did this, except remember now, I was the navigator, and I'm not a very good navigator. So I recorded a distance and a time, and we drove back, and I got focused more on the time and the fact that we were going to try not to delay any more than we should, and turn. And so when it came time to work the mileage for the rest of the route, it's like, okay, so where is this mileage? I've got 3 mileages written down here, and I'm not sure which one it is. So the time delay was easy, and I'll talk about it in a second. But the mileage wasn't. This happens to you. It can happen. It can happen so quick. The big thing is stop immediately in a safe place and turn around and go back. And be sure that you write stuff. Remember, I said take more paper than you need. That's what I'm talking about. It happens. Okay. So staying on time. We'll get to the time allowance here in a second. So there's a basic way to stay on time. you're going to get an average speed. It's going to say cast, change average speed to, and it's going to say like 42. And it's because the road that you're traveling on is a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit road. We'll never make a cast above what the speed limit is. So the rally master, Andy, knows this is the doctoral level math thing that he's got. He knows what the perfect time is to travel all of these, and he adjusts the cast to make up for starts and stops and curves and stuff like that. We don't have any pauses in this rally right now. There's only a couple of places to put one we made just for practice. But if you get delayed, count off the delay as soon as you stop, and then make up the delay in an even half minute or take a time allowance. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. Or adjust a few miles above the cast, the average speed, based on how early or late you've been arriving at the controls. It's like Linda and I on Saturday, I think we arrived late at 4 out of the 6 controls. But I mean, we're talking seconds late. We're not talking minutes late. Still, we were always late. So we probably should have driven just like 1 more mile an hour faster. The easiest way is to just, like I said, travel a few miles per hour above what the cast is, and pull over and count off any pauses. Or if you get delayed, count off the delay as soon as you can. And if you have to stop, let me give you an example. That let's say at a traffic light, it says for everybody, whether you get stopped at the light or not stopped at the light, it says pause for 30 seconds. Okay. The rally master is expecting you to get stopped and be at that traffic light for 20 seconds. So when you turn, you're 10 seconds to the good when you turn if you only stopped for 20 seconds, because he gave you 30 seconds there. But what if you went through the light on green and just turned? Now you're 30 seconds ahead. So you need to pull over and count off the time, but don't count off the whole 30 seconds because you have to accelerate and get back up to speed. Count off like 20 seconds and drive away, and then just pick up your average speed that you were driving before. So like I said, adjust a little above or below for how it's going. If you're late every time, then pick up the speed just a little bit. Okay, so over on the Andy, can you see the screenshot there? See, you guys are covering mine up. Can you see the screenshot?
Yes, I could see that.
Okay. All righty. So here is the RICTA app for taking a time allowance. So a time allowance lets you add to your perfect time to recover from mistakes without having to drive unsafely. And not just mistakes, just if something happens. I'll give you an example from the Chattanooga rally. Even though they worked on this rally months in advance, the day we drove, we got stopped at a road construction site and sat for 6 minutes and 30 seconds. That's really easy. We can take that on the time delay. The issue was that now we're car number 12 or 15 in line, and we're supposed to be doing like 32 miles an hour, and we're doing 22 miles an hour for the next 4 miles. That's when that math that I didn't want to introduce tonight comes in. It gets really complicated based on when you stop, when you start, and how far you've got to go and how far you're actually traveling, because you could theoretically, we very easily took a 6 minute and 30 second time allowance, but we were still like way off on that leg. So here's how you do it. It's not intuitive, but I'm not a computer guy. Okay.
And read up on this, guys. If this is a little new to you, just read up on this as you have time. Time allowances have always been a part of road rallying. You get stopped by a train and the other competitors did not. You don't want to speed. We're never going to ask you to drive at 20 miles an hour over the speed limit to make up that time. So you take a time allowance and it doesn't hurt your score at all to do that. But you gotta be smart about how you calculate how much time allowance you take.
Yeah, so the competitor app, if you push it once, it'll go to 10 seconds. If you push it twice, it goes to 20, 3 pushes to 30, 4 pushes, look at this, added a minute 30, 5 pushes to 30. So the other day when Linda and I did this, we needed 6 something, 4 something. But anyway, we ended up with 30 seconds more than we needed, and should have sat there for 20 seconds before we drove away, at least, because at the next checkpoint, we were 20 seconds ahead. We could have fixed that by just sitting there for just that time. So you've got to keep up with what you put in. Most rallies, and I think we're doing the same thing, bot time per section, and where you've got 2 sections, could be a total of 19 minutes and 30 seconds. You could get really lost in 19 minutes and 30 seconds, but you can make it up.
All right, before we head on, Jim, let me just kind of give everybody an update. We're at about an hour into the meeting. We've only got about 4 or 5 slides left. So just so you know kind of where we're at, we're kind of beginning to wrap up.
Okay, so here's what the app actually looks like. So so this is whatever the demo scamper is. We're car number 2015 and whatever. So on the left-hand side, it's showing us that the rally clock is in 24-hour time. That's like 2:50 p.m. and 27 seconds. The time allowance, this person has not taken a time allowance. If they punched the TA plus button, it would say 30 seconds. If they punched it again, it would say, no, excuse me, 1 punch is 10 seconds, 2 punches is 20. It would say 30 seconds if they punched it twice. So let's look what this person is doing here. This actually starts at checkpoint 3 for some reason. They were late 10 seconds, late 7 seconds, early 6 seconds, late 3 seconds, late 29 seconds. So pretty much they've been late, but these are very good scores. I don't know how close are those. Those are only a minute or so apart. That's if the checkpoints were that close, that's still pretty decent. What did I tell you? Linda and I the other day did 5 checkpoints, 6 checkpoints, 110 miles, and we were 52 seconds off, even with our little soiree off course there. So this is doable. This is doable, and it's fun. So once this person got to that point where they saw all of these, if you, I think if you touch each one of the checkpoints, you end up with a critique slip that looks like the one over here on the right-hand side. This must be for checkpoint 3 at 8:57:52. So they were only 10 seconds off there. And you can see that after you've done a couple of legs, a couple of checkpoints, that you can start to see a trend, and then you can feel more comfortable with the app. I think it's very straightforward. We've got lots of instructions. Make sure it's on. Turn it up. Our hearing aids, you cannot Bluetooth the phone while you're using this app, or both people can't hear it. So little things like that. And we'll make sure that you know it's working, and it dings when you pass these places while you're reading what you just passed on the route instruction.
And maybe it's obvious to everyone, but just in case, you see the score up there in that center part of the screen on the RICTA app, and your app's going to show you that during the rally. And basically that your score is how many seconds early or late you are. It doesn't go up or down. So if you're early or you're late, that is 1 second late is 1 point.
Okay. So again, Andy said we're going to talk about this. So we're on public roads with normal traffic. Okay. We've set this up to where you do not have to violate any rules in order to compete in this event or do very well in the event. We told you there's 2 roads that don't have a center line. Be sure to stay on your side of the road. There are a couple of roads that have some pretty abrupt hills up and down. Some of them will have the typical sign, hidden driveway and stuff like that. Make sure that you stay on your side of the road. Okay. And the car zero perfect times are calculated considering speed limits and all of that other stuff that we talked about. Here's a biggie. If you're delayed, use the time allowance. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't count against you. Okay. That's what we want you to do. Always err on the side of safety. Let's see, the glossary. It's like, I almost started with this and I thought, no, I can't do that to you guys. So that would be too bad. I'm not going to run through all of these. Some of them we've talked about. We know what a checkpoint is, except a checkpoint is just a point in space out there. It's a bridge abutment. It's a sign. It's something like that. Your app's going to ding as you drive by it and say, hey, man, you are right on time. 0. You got no points for that. That's good. Okay. Look at the definitions here. Bear is turn in the indicated directions 10 to 80 degrees. It may say turn. It may say acute turn. So, but basically, you're going to get it straight. Straight is straight ahead, plus or minus 10 degrees. So it's not exactly straight, but it's the most straight that you can go. And think about that principal road that you're on. Car zero time, we talked about. It's a way to restart without having somebody there to say it's your turn to go. You've got a clock. Everybody's got the same time on their clock. That's one of the great things about these apps. In the old days, you had to do the little time hack thing where somebody said they counted down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 hack. It is 8:03 in the morning, and so you had to set your clock and make sure that everybody had exactly the same time. We don't have to do that, so that's really good. Flying starts, we talked about that. A restart, it's just a beginning of a timed portion, probably a sign or some other object or symbol after you've stopped to do something, like your auto check or the brake in the middle of the rally. Free zones, a free zone is that. There are no controls. There are no timing. There's no reason to drive fast, but you don't have to worry about anything. Just stay on course. Stay on course. Objects. Boy, it's not enclosed in quotes, but it may refer to an object or a place or a likeness thereof. Wow. Like white marker, historical marker, something like that. We don't use anything that can move. Nothing on wheels, no signs on wheels, no signs on trucks, nothing like that. No cows, no tractors, that sort of stuff. So,
It
but
could
it could
say
be
a
anything.
red barn.
Yeah, red barn. So information in parentheses is provided to be helpful. In Chattanooga, we had an instruction that said something to the effect of, bear right at such and such road and such restaurant. And in parentheses, it said, be aware that you can't see any of these things until you are at the road that you have to turn on. And sure enough, even knowing the mileage that we're looking for, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they did that to us. The stuff was set back just far enough that you literally were at the turn point when any of that came in sight. So it's there for a reason. Use it. Pause. We talked about that. We may or may not put a pause in a rally. It's just for practice, if nothing else. Signs. Lots of signs, man. You won't believe how many signs you see on the road until you start doing road rally. It's like they're out there everywhere, just waiting to get you. It's like evil signs or something. Route instructions enclosed in quotes refer to text or symbols on sign. Signs may not be referenced in full or part. However, they will not be misleading. Okay, that's the biggie. They won't be misleading. Stop. We know a stop sign is always capitalized and it's always the same thing. Stop. Traffic light. That is a long definition of a traffic light. Okay, but you guys know what a traffic light is. But You don't see them anymore, but we all remember those country traffic lights that were green on one side and red on the other side, and they just sat there and blinked the whole time. We don't have anything like that, but it could be. Transit zones. Transit zone is like a free zone. It's to get from one area in the rally to another. I don't think we're calling them transit zones, and ours are calling it free zones if we're using the term at all. All right, so we're here to the end. Road rallies, SCCA road rallies are interesting, but they've got this quirk, and that is once you get the general instructions, if the rally master opens questions in a public forum, you're supposed to ask yes or no questions. Okay. We're not going to be quite that strict. We will say once we register for the rally, the GIs will come out, general instructions will come out maybe 2 weeks in advance. And if you've got questions, we're going to ask you to put them on our forum so that everybody can see what question is being asked. We'll get to the questions here in a second. In the future, we're going to send out a short questionnaire. This is the first time we've ever done this. We're looking for ways to do it better and give you the information that you want. So when we send you the questionnaire, if it's going to be a SurveyMonkey questionnaire, if you would respond to that, we would appreciate it. Let's see. I had to throw this in there just for grins. Okay, so the Bulldog Bend Rally is on Saturday, October the 7th. It's going to start in Montevallo. And if we're lucky, and I think we will be, MSR registration will open on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So here's your pause. So you think of questions. Pause for 45 seconds or until the majority of the lights facing you are green. Close your eyes and proceed. That's not a real traffic light. That's a piece of art in Europe, but I loved it. I thought it was great. So, questions.
All right, folks. I'll be glad to field questions through the chat app, or if you want to turn on your microphone, we'll have audio discussions at this point. A lot of stuff we've got covered tonight. A lot of it may be new to you. Ask us if there's anything confusing to you so far.
I saw one down there, Andy. Do you know how many miles it is in the rally?
I think it's about 130 miles, something like that.
I added them up today and I can't find it now. Takes about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and rallies vary in length quite a bit. I mean, you know, there's actually rallies that go on for 2 days over an entire weekend that are broken up into segments and so forth. I would say most typical TSD rallies are anywhere from the shortest is 2 hours to typically maybe 3 to 4 hours. That's been my experience.
I think I came up with 116 miles this morning when I looked at it. So let's see.
So again, if you're confused about any of the terminology or so forth, feel free to ask us tonight or ask us through the SCCA forums. You can find that on the alscca.net website and so forth. You can also feel free to contact us through the email. You can reach me at rallymaster@alscca.net email if you'd like to do it that way. But tonight would be a great opportunity. If you have burning questions, we can answer those tonight.
So RL, you probably figured this out. The app tells you if you arrive at a checkpoint late or early. First, it tells you got there, and it tells you how early or how late you got there. This is, I may not have emphasized this, the time allowance. When you see that you need a time allowance, take it and take it immediately, because you have until the next checkpoint to take it. And after that, it's gone.
just to sort of to add to that as well, the app is really a modern addition to road rallying. In years before we had modern GPS capability of our current smartphones, it could take as many as 25 or 30 volunteers to man each checkpoint and provide paper time slips to folks to tell them how early or late they were. It involved handheld timing equipment and all those kind of things. And the modern apps make this much easier to conduct. And I believe it's more fun. And I think it adds a lot to the rally experience. So hopefully you'll find, if you begin to rally with us and use the RICTA app, and there are several other apps out there besides RICTA, but I would say that's probably the most popular one currently used by SCCA and Porsche Club of America. For sure, use the RICTA app, and it becomes pretty obvious after you do it a time or two.
See, so Rod says, is there any benefit to using a higher res GPS receiver versus the usual phone, or is that even allowed? It would be allowed. The app is I don't know the difference in 10 hertz and 1 hertz there, but the app, I think it showed it was good to 8 meters or something like that. I think mine, when I was using it the other day, showed it was good to 5 meters. That's pretty decent resolution. The checkpoints are set up so that they're within 15 seconds at the speed that you're driving. But I find they're even closer than that. I mean, they're at the ones that we did the other day were at exactly the point that we thought they would be. And we're talking a bridge abutment or something like that. And that's exactly when the thing dinged.
Okay. I just from in autocross and track stuff, a 1 hertz phone refresh rate's not good enough to get any meaningful times unless you just get lucky. So a lot of us use a 10 hertz one just to get better times and a narrower band on your actual course. But sounds like that's not something that's actually needed here.
It's not. And I'm glad you asked that, though, because folks say, how in the world does this work? When you log into the Bulldog Bend rally, it downloads the physical position of the checkpoints to your phone. And so as you drive by, it picks them up and just saves them until it can send your results back up to the cloud, and they're recorded for the Rally Master. So that's why you don't need cell service, and we're going to be in some places that don't have cell service. You don't need it, but you've got to have a good download, and we have the ability to check and see if your phone is ready to go, that it's got everything downloaded. And that's why we want to do it at the start site.
So like an extra phone that doesn't have cell service, you're going to have to, that wouldn't work unless you get on a Wi-Fi or mirror it to your other phone in order to get that initial download and then the download at the end of the rally. Does that make sense? Because I've got an old phone that has no service that I use for all my track timing and autocross timing, but I would at least have to make the initial download and the ending upload, I guess.
Has it got Wi-Fi service?
Yeah. You could pair it with a phone or with a Wi-Fi and be fine. It just doesn't have cell access.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't need satellite. It downloads the stuff and then just compares us where you are.
Okay, cool.
And Andy, we're going to have our hotspot there.
We don't not have a hotspot currently that's functioning. That's something we need to prepare for before our rally coming up.
Okay.
The board needs to discuss that. But one thing to sort of follow up on Rod's question about using a device that doesn't have cellular service connectivity. One of the fun things that most people that are doing rallying with these apps can do today is that you can actually be recorded in real time by a helper, if you will, at the very end of the rally or whatever. And if you get off course and you have a cell connected device in the car, it will tell us, it will help somebody be able to call you and say, Rod, you made a wrong turn back there and you're way off course. Here's how to get back on course.
Yeah.
And we can help you with that. So there's obviously benefits, and most people that run these rallies today use a cellular connected phone.
That's a good idea. An example, some of the Southern Cal Friday nighters that they run, at one of the last quarterly meetings, the person that monitored their rally was in Nebraska watching these guys run this rally at night in California. And she was the person that was helping folks if they got lost.
All right. Any other questions, Jim, or I could answer for you tonight? All right, Jim, anything else before I wrap us up?
No, just don't be discouraged when you look at the glossary or something like that, or you look over the slides and you say, man, I don't know what they said about that. Come on out and have some fun. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm really glad that we started doing this. I was looking around for places where my wife and I could go do some rallies, and thought, why don't we just do this ourselves? So come out and join us.
All right. Well, I do want to thank everyone for participating tonight, learning a little bit about rallying. Hopefully you can apply this to our upcoming rally. The class is a good, quick way to understand the general basics of rallying. And I think Jim's done a great job of explaining some of the terminology and how the apps sort of work tonight and so forth. But really and truly, hands-on is the only way to gain the skills to compete at a higher level. And we're kind of looking at this first TSD rally in Alabama for the Alabama SCCA as kind of an introductory rally. So we're hoping to encourage some folks to do that. And the hands-on is the way you learn this. You have to do it 2 or 3 times to get comfortable with the terminology and how it all works. So I do encourage you to join us for the Bulldog Bend rally coming up again, as Jim said, Saturday, October the 7th. It'll go live on Motorsport Reg next week. Looking forward, so keep an eye out for that. If you're not yet an SCCA member, we recommend you sign up to be either a full-time member or a weekend member during your registration. Alabama region of SCCA provides all sorts of car events, so I would encourage you to come join us for other SCCA events. Speaking of that, we've got a couple of events coming up before the Bulldog Bend rally in October. Our next solo autocross event is Saturday, September 16th at Barber Motorsports Park. The sign up is already online for that event on Motorsport Reg. You can find more details at our website, www.alscca.net. And also on September the 16th, one of the other programs that we run is a teen driving school. Some of you may or may not be aware of that, but SCCA has taught teen driving clinics for many, many years now. And if you've got teenagers or have teenagers in your family, we typically teach a dozen 15 to 17-year-olds 6 times a year in Gardendale. We have some great facilities and great instructors for that. I encourage you to think about that. Again, all of our information is available on Motorsport Reg for these events at our website and also on Facebook. If there's nothing else, I look forward to seeing you guys at one of our events soon. I'm gonna sign us off and stop our recording. Talk with you guys soon. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, guys.